Well, good afternoon, everyone. By my clock, it is 2 o'clock on the dot, and I would like to formally welcome you to today's webinar. For those of you who I haven't talked to in a while, my name is Bobby Persinger, and I am the Deputy Director at Prevention Action Alliance here in Columbus, Ohio. And I want to again welcome you all to our conversation today. On behalf of the Ohio College Initiatives Advisory Council and the team here at PAA, thanks for joining us and giving us some of your time this afternoon. I know always on a Monday, it seems like the worst day of the week, right? Because you're coming back from being off and probably busier than normal this past weekend with the holidays looming very near in our future, right? I'm excited though to welcome you all today because we have a really fun and interesting conversation to be had over the next hour. We have a wonderful panel of experts joining us this afternoon who are going to talk to you about the Healthy Campus Framework through the American College Health Association. So I'm not going to take up too much more of your time because I want to give them all the time that they need to chat with you about this. But before I turn it over to our panelists, a couple housekeeping items. This presentation is being recorded, so it will be accessible on our OCI website for viewing at a later date. Also, if you look over in the control panel on the right side of your monitor, you will see a handout section. The current iteration of the Healthy Campus Framework is actually in that handout section, so you have access to it. So before the webinar is over this afternoon, go ahead and upload it and download it and reload it and do all of those wonderful tech things that you need to do. The question box is at your disposal. Everybody will be muted until the Q&A portion, but please, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the question box, and we'll make sure that the panelists are able to answer your questions to the best of their ability. So on that note, let me go ahead and introduce you to our panelists this afternoon. We are happy to welcome three wonderful folks from across the country who are working every day diligently to support the health, wellness, and behavioral health of students on campuses across the country. So I'd like to first introduce you to Dr. Monica Webb, preferred pronouns she, her. Dr. Webb completed a bachelor's degree in health science education at the University of Florida, an MPH at the University of North Florida, and her PhD back at the University of Florida in health and human performance. Dr. Webb has over 18 years of experience in public health education, serving as a college health educator, a middle school health teacher, university faculty member, and recently and currently as the director of the Gatorwell Health Promotion Services. She's a certified health promotion specialist and leads her team to develop innovative approaches to address high-risk health behaviors among college students. Dr. Webb currently serves as the chair of the Healthy Campus Leadership Team through the American College Health Association. Joining Dr. Webb this afternoon is Jordan Perry, preferred pronouns she, her, or they, them. Jordan serves as the Healthy Campus Liaison and Adjunct Lecturer at the University of North Carolina, Asheville. She's been in the field of public health for 14 years and in health promotion and higher education for the last 10. She has a master's degree in public health, is a certified health education specialist, as well as a certified workplace wellness specialist. Jordan's also a member of the leadership team for the Healthy Campus Framework and was instrumental in redeveloping the framework. Rounding out our panel this afternoon is Erica Filipich, preferred pronouns she, her. And Erica is the Associate Director for Health Promotion at Michigan State University. She has been in the field of public health for the past 13 years and is passionate about evaluating policies, systems, and environmental management strategies that can remove barriers to academic success and reduce harm for students. Erica has a master's degree in higher adult and lifelong education and is a certified health and wellness professional, and also is a member of the Healthy Campus Leadership Team through ACHA. So do me a favor, ladies and gentlemen, and join me in welcoming our panelists to our webinar this morning. Thank you, ladies, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the Healthy Campus Framework, Healthy Campus is a framework that was initiated over 30 years ago. It really was focusing in on ways to move the health and well-being of a campus forward. The previous reiterations of Healthy Campus were very much based on healthy people objectives. And so your familiarity with the Healthy Campus framework may have been from those previous reiterations that involved student, faculty, and staff health objectives. So today we are going to share with everyone the new framework as well as how we got to that point. And so are you all seeing the second screen? Just want to make sure so I haven't lost everyone. Okay, good. So to begin this process, we took a step back as a leadership team and we started with a needs assessment. We wanted to see exactly how campuses were applying the Healthy Campus framework, what they found beneficial, what they found were barriers. And so we collected a total of 221 responses during the course of this needs assessment. And we found that for most institutions, the coalition, the Healthy Campus Coalition, was the general focus. And so the feedback we received was that, you know, the benefit of applying the framework was really to develop those coalitions and have those conversations across the campus community. We also found during the scope of the needs assessment that the objectives, because they were so closely aligned with healthy people, they didn't have a lot of consideration for the developmental considerations of our students. It also didn't have very much a holistic approach to well-being, which was very much the focus of our campuses moving forward. So we started to think about, you know, ideally, we want to move away from those clinical objectives and focus in truly on the needs of individual campuses and the students, faculty, and staff of those individual campuses. As we had conversations with these different institutions, we also realized through the needs assessment that there's a lot of institutional barriers. Resources vary greatly from campus to campus. We know that R1 institutions are vastly different from community colleges. It is important to make sure that you're targeting students, faculty, and staff that you find at those specific institutions and that everything is aligned with the resources of those institutions. So in the course of the needs assessment, we also found that a lot of institutions felt like they were set up for failure. They didn't have the resources to be successful and meet all of those objectives because they were so clinically focused. So as we took a look at all this information, we took a step back and we started to consider, you know, we need to develop a framework that any institution can see themselves in it. We need to, instead of telling them what the objectives are, focus in on the skills on how to develop those objectives, how to develop the key performance indicators for their specific institution, and that way be able to have a better idea of when you're successful and when you're not. With the previous framework, a lot of times that information was lost. And so institutions weren't very clear on if they had a successful Healthy Campus Coalition or not. And so what we propose moving forward is taking into consideration a lot of the other current programs, frameworks, models that are out there and that are very much being applied with other institutions. So as we started redeveloping the Healthy Campus framework, we truly started to focus in on what do we want to have available for campuses to be able to feel like they can make action on the health needs of their students, faculty, and staff. So the purpose of the new Healthy Campus framework is to empower campus communities to improve health and well-being and to focus on the process of helping the campus communities. So that process involves 3 different entry points. It involves a cornerstone, a community, and a culture. And so becoming a cornerstone of the campus involves striving towards health equity and eliminating those health disparities through the application of health services. Supporting a community, a healthy campus community, is one that increases academic success, student and faculty staff retention, and focuses on lifelong learning. And then creating a healthy campus culture is one in which social and physical environments promote health. So it's much more than just the individuals that are there promoting these issues. It is systemic. It is across the entire campus community. And so when we're looking at a healthy campus, we really want to focus in on the fact that a healthy campus is a continuum. We all know that our institution today, where we are at with COVID-19, is probably vastly different than when we were a year ago. In many respects, I'm willing to bet your campus community is focusing a lot more on health and well-being. But is it necessarily those factors that you were focusing on prior to the pandemic? Maybe, maybe not. So it's important in the new framework that we acknowledge that a healthy campus is a continuum. You're going to have good years, you're going to have bad years, there's shifts in resources. How can we move forward with a framework that acknowledges that continuum? It's also comprehensive and focuses beyond just programming for students. It's taking into consideration a holistic approach to students, faculty, and staff well-being, as well as how we interact with the community surrounding our institution. And it is important to note that a founding tenet of the new Healthy Campus Framework is that all institutions of higher ed are communities. Whether you're a community campus, a community campus where you have students who just work full-time during the day and are coming in to take classes at night. If you have a residential campus, it doesn't matter what kind of campus you are a community and you provide resources to students, and oftentimes it's the only place that students, faculty, and staff have access to these resources. So it's important that we consider our communities as these little bubbles within themselves. Every campus also has a place within this model, regardless of resources. And that was very important moving forward. And I think you'll see that throughout all the different aspects of this framework. And so the very first component of having a healthy campus is truly to acknowledge the infrastructure. And so the infrastructure is the overarching component throughout the different phases of a healthy campus. Whether it's Cornerstone, culture, or community, regardless, the healthy campus will be focusing in on infrastructure. And if you have a solid infrastructure, then you're going to have a solid cornerstone. It's okay if you're moving up towards the other ranks, but having that infrastructure is going to be critically important for you to be able to build capacity and build the information that you need to continue rising as a healthy campus. So part of the infrastructure is the consideration for the support services, the administrative foundation, the ancillary services, and it's really helping build the capacity in order to influence health and well-being across a campus. And for the infrastructure, we most often refer to the framework for a comprehensive college health program. This is one of the important documents within ACHA. It really focuses in on showing you how you can provide a lot of the basic infrastructure and information for campuses. And this also very much helps build into the first phase of the framework, the Healthy Campus Cornerstone.
Thank you, Monica. Can folks hear me okay? Okay, excellent. So again, my name's Jordan, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the Cornerstone part of our model here. So a Cornerstone campus has implemented the framework for a comprehensive college health program. This is a really important fundamental document, and that's why it's so crucial to the Cornerstone. You know, if any of you know about construction, you can't do anything without a Cornerstone. And what we really wanted to avoid as we created this model is a hierarchy, saying that one place to be was better than another. If this is where you are, this is great, because this is really about asking if basic health needs are met. And like Monica said, it's not really fair to compare a well-resourced R1 institution with a community college or with, you know, I work at a small public liberal arts institution that is vastly underfunded, right? So it's challenging to compare where you can be in terms of resources without taking that into consideration. So Cornerstone is a great place to start, but it's not any better or worse than any of the other ways of being. So at this level, institutions are asking about those basic health needs, and that's all detailed in the Comprehensive College Health Program. The Cornerstone level really provides or facilitates access to services with a focus on integrating prevention, health promotion, and public health with equal importance to both physical and mental health services. And getting to that Cornerstone level is really focused on building capacity to meet those basic health needs. Next slide, please. So with each of these levels, what we have attached to them is strategies, resources, and some tools that you can use for assessment. For the Cornerstone level, what we have for strategies are encouragement to create a network of community providers to facilitate access to mental health services. Right, not everybody is able to have a fully staffed, fully resourced mental health services or mental health support system on campus, and so outsourcing that, although that's not what we're suggesting that you have to do, but that might be the only way that you can help meet students' basic health needs, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great way to be able to meet those needs if you aren't able to do so on your immediate campus. For example, you could develop a memorandum of understanding or MOU with a local pharmacy that allows special rates for students. That is an example of a strategy you could use to get to that Cornerstone level. To get that, you could conduct a gap analysis to figure out what some potential partners could be, some potential collaborations that you could have in the community. That gap analysis is going to be really helpful in figuring out where you are and where you want to be and how to bridge that gap. Some resources listed here include what I just mentioned, the Comprehensive College Health Program, standards of practice for health promotion, which I'm sure many of us are familiar with, standards for student health insurance coverage, and trans-inclusive college health programs. We really intentionally put this at the Cornerstone level because as we have more trans and gender diverse students, faculty, and staff as part of our communities, it's really important that we meet those baseline needs of trans and gender nonconforming students, faculty, and staff. So while a few years ago, maybe we saw this as something that was next level, people who have the resources are able to do this, our culture is really shifting, and it's important that we can all do this at the basic level and meet those basic needs. And then in terms of assessment, I already mentioned gap analysis. You can do benchmarking, which I'm sure many of you already do. You can conduct student focus groups or do environmental scans to gather the information that you need for this level. All right, next slide. So I'm going to shift now to talking about community. With a community campus, you're specifically working to establish the mechanisms for campus-wide ownership of health and well-being through the collective impact model. Some of you might be familiar with that, and it might be new to some folks. What I see as part of the difference when you're shifting from the Cornerstone level to the community level is health stops being just the purview of one office, right? And you're starting to see more offices or more departments across campus taking ownership and taking leadership. But using the collective impact model, you're highlighting or centering the work of a backbone organization. And a backbone organization is going to lead the efforts around health on campus. And ideally, we'll have a champion, somebody who's going to advocate for health and well-being, ideally at the senior leadership levels. As many of you know, leadership transitions in higher ed are super common, and those transitions can actually change the support that you have for implementing a healthy campus initiative. You know, we have colleagues who have been at one level of the healthy campus continuum, and then with the loss of a champion, their level has shifted. So these are not static. Where you are can shift and change over time. It's not an absolute or a finished product when you make it to a level. Community campus also takes a more organizational and systems-based approach to health and well-being, rather than that individual sort of focus that used to be more common in higher education. It asks the question of who is leading us and are we going in a shared direction? And that's where identifying that backbone organization can be really helpful. The target at the community level broadens to include the entire campus community, so students, faculty, and staff. With a Cornerstone campus, your focus is going to be pretty solidly on students. At the community level, you're going to expand your capacity a little bit to start to include faculty, staff initiatives there. Next slide, please. And then our strategies, resources, and assessment for the community level, taking a look at the backbone organization leading the efforts on campus, and maybe that's your health promotion office, your health and counseling services, maybe it isn't. The point isn't who it is, but rather that there is an office, a department, a person even with the support and with the resources to guide the effort in a shared direction. You're going to identify and establish those champions, again, ideally at the administrative level, with an understanding that leadership transitions happen all the time, and being prepared for that sets you up for success. It begins to advocate for embedding health and well-being into all aspects of campus culture across administration, operations, and academic mandates. I think one thing that we have seen, particularly with the COVID-19 pandemic, is the impact that policy and environments can have on our health outcomes. It also concerns the identification and mobilization around a specific well-being concern. One of the struggles that I've seen in my time in health promotion and higher ed is that silos can happen, or we can be working towards the same thing, but we're operating in isolation from each other. And so what's really crucial about the backbone organization is that it's facilitating conversations to get folks moving in a shared direction. So some available resources here include the CAS standards, the collective impact model, and the Okanagan Charter. Some assessment materials that are available include the MAP IT framework, which we kept from the last iteration of Healthy Campus, environmental scans again, and then population level surveys, such as the National College Health Assessment. Okay, I think I'm turning it over to Erica now.
All right. Thank you, Jordan and Monica. Can you hear me all right? Perfect. Okay. And hello to my Midwest partners in Ohio. Greetings from Michigan. Probably similarly a dreary day. So I'll share about the Healthy Campus culture piece. So this is really sort of when you feel like you might have kind of found your groove. You are working on a campus that's got a well-established structure that articulates campus needs, and you're able to take steps as a group collectively to address issues and really work through a common agenda with shared measures. And we'll talk about shared measures in a minute. And the Healthy Campus culture is asking, how is health and well-being on our campus? How are those initiatives making an impact on student success and our greater community well-being? So we've moved maybe from meeting the individual health needs to really how is this impacting a student's time on our campus, and ultimately faculty and staff's time as well. We talked a little bit about this Healthy Campus culture and it continuing when maybe that champion leaves. So you've got this agenda, this network that's really pervasive across campus, and it's well connected. And so in the absence of sort of that campus champion for health and wellness, the work still continues. And I think we've all probably been in a place where that person leaves and it feels like you've kind of started from square one. And so this really seeks to spread that work across the organization, so it's not as strongly felt when that individual leaves or is no longer in that role. And this also starts to move beyond campus. And Monica talked about how our campuses are our own individual communities. And so this might look more formally at that sort of town-gown relationship. So the campus relationship with the greater community, maybe with other community organizations. And that, again, is going to include faculty, staff, It could be regional, it could be nationwide, etc. Next slide, please. There we go. All right, thank you. So really the strategy is to work to embed health into all aspects of campus culture. Certainly it might sound easier said than done, but there are some campuses that are really doing great work on this. And then it can look different ways. Lead health promotion action and collaboration locally and globally. So I, before the call, shared that I was really excited that you had this coalition in Ohio and that you can share with like institutions, even though you may be different regionally and resource-wise, you have this shared network to pull from and to share what's working and maybe what's not with each other. Community partnerships that align with the academic mission and vision. And one of the ways that you can really see a campus adopt this culture piece is to see what the institution mission and values are. Is health, is well-being, is something related to that actually articulated in a campus mission, vision, or goal statement? And then are your policies congruent with your shared goals? So this is sort of that policy piece where we can have really intentioned goals, but if we've got policies that really don't support that and are really maybe in the way of doing that good work, this culture campus can kind of assess those from a cross-campus collaborative framework to see how we can remove some of those barriers and maybe realign some policies so they're more supportive. And so Jordan talked about some of these resources as well, and I think they really continue to work across all of the phases here for Healthy Campus. The socio-ecological model is one too that I know we frame a lot of our work on because that's very helpful for us as an institution, and it may be for some of you as well. So looking at how maybe we look at direct service and then kind of branch it out across those different levels of the socio-ecological model. So how are we meeting those kind of those outer rings, and what kind of resources and campus partners and community partners do we have that are lying within those rings that we can kind of bring into the folds and help do this work with us. In terms of assessment, so shared measures, and I think this is, it can sound really challenging when you're working on a campus or community-wide coalition, but what are there measures that maybe rec sports partners and housing partners and health promotion and wellness partners can really decide, you know, this, if we can work on this shared measure, we are really going to move the needle, or will we really able to change X on our campus or improve Y? And so trying to find some of those shared measures so that everyone is working sort of in lockstep with a shared message and a shared goal. Maybe that's like a campus health report card. So maybe it's a sharing out of sort of how you've accomplished some things or what maybe your shared measures and goals have led to on your campus, and kind of sharing those wins so you can get some more traction and more buy-in. And a campus health map. And so kind of mapping out maybe where some resources are and others are, because it might not be intuitive. You know, I think we all kind of get in our own way sometimes in terms of those silos that have been mentioned. So really being thoughtful about how we're sharing out the good work. And I think that also helps to bring more partners in that way as well. And so we'll share some strategies and some current documents and resources that you're welcome to use, and we can walk through them now. So the Healthy Campus Framework, I think you've got. There's also an accompaniment document. There's the glossary, and we really tried to define the glossary so that we could work from a common place, because I know certain campuses, a term might mean one thing, and so we really wanted to kind of define generally speaking, how we envision certain things moving forward. So there is the glossary that does accompany the framework. We also have just started, it's a week old, our Healthy Campus Connect network. So if you're an ACHA member, feel free to join our group there, our community. You can invite yourself to that. We're also working on this inventory, and this has been a labor of love for about 2 years now, and I think we're getting really close. And so this is something that we'll be excited to share that really lets schools take a breath and kind of work through, you know, maybe where are you? And we really wanted this inventory to be strength-based. And so you can really kind of assess what you have at your campus and maybe some things that you could use more support in, and maybe that can be used to help garner support, and maybe identify some ways that you can work in innovative ways to to maybe fill that gap that you haven't thought of before. And so we're looking forward to that in the coming months. And lastly, our Healthy Campus website. So it is part of the ACHA website, and we're working on it. We're updating it as best we're able to. So some of it, most of the resources are updated, and you'll probably notice ongoing edits as we continue to update the inventory and any other documents. And that is my cat. I'm so sorry. And I think with that, Monica, I think I'm going to turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. So we wanted to take the time out and frame a question back to you all. We wanted to know, if any of your institutions, if you are familiar with the Healthy Campus framework, or if you had participated in previous reiterations of it, and more importantly, do you see yourselves in the new framework? And if so, in what entry point do you potentially see your institution? So I'm going to see if we can check the chat if anyone wants to share some information about their campus. I know it's hard to do engagement and conversation via, these remote presentations. I'm not really able to see questions, so.
Dr. Webb, it doesn't look like there are questions at this time. There's a comment saying, the idea of a campus resource health map is great. Visuals are always helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, we're hoping.
Oh, go ahead.
We're also hoping to develop a visual way to represent the Healthy Campus framework, because we do acknowledge that a lot of times, especially as you communicate the stories and the good work that you all do, those visuals are critically important to communicating that story. So along with the Healthy Campus inventory, we're also hoping to develop some additional materials and deliverables that can be used by everyone. The Healthy Campus inventory will be the one assessment tool that will perfectly align with the framework. And it is currently set up as an Excel spreadsheet. We're trying to figure out if there's other ways we can package it to make it a little bit easier to use. But essentially, you assemble a team of about 7 people from your institution, could be less than that depending on who you have available. And each person individually completes that campus inventory. And then you come together as a group and talk about how you scored each area. And so it goes through the campus infrastructure, it goes through the Cornerstone components, the community components, and the culture components. And when you complete those conversations and you agree on the scoring, you'll end up with identification as to which phase you currently fall in. We're also hoping that inventory can be used by campuses to identify areas for potential growth. And those are the areas that you can continue to build capacity in and be able to map your way through as you continue growing to a healthy campus culture.
Another comment that came into the chat box for the panelists, or it's really a comment saying, I'm currently preparing for 3 focus groups to see how to gauge their level of function and ability on campus. So that's pretty exciting.
That is awesome.
And then somebody else is commenting that they're the director of mental well-being at a campus in Southeast Ohio and working on kind of a similar comment about working on trying to assess campus capacity and readiness.
So generally at our institutions and in the collaborations we've had with other campuses looking to apply the framework, most of the time you see population level surveys such as the NCHA or the faculty and staff version of the NCHA, Healthy Mind Study, NESI, and some of those other campus-wide studies as well. So those population level surveys help tremendously to help identify, what are those behaviors you're seeing among students, faculty, and staff. Collectively, you want to be able to track that data over time to identify your specific campus's trends. But a component of that is very much also having those focus groups and collecting that qualitative information. So we are really excited to hear that you guys are already starting to consider exactly how that's being applied. And another component of that is very much having those collaborative conversations with all aspects of your campus. So involving recreational sports, student healthcare centers, any registered dietitians you may have. You know, considering health from a holistic point of view. I'll give you an example. Here at the University of Florida, financial wellness has been a serious concern, especially as, you know, we try to attract as many different kinds of students as possible. And in that process, we want to be, you know, mindful of how their family can help support them. And if not, what are the resources on our campus that we can direct them to? And so a lot of the conversations we've had here at UF has also been involving financial aid, and they are a newer partner that wasn't involved in those kinds of conversations, but they absolutely see how the work they do is very much aligned with financial wellness and the importance of that when taking a holistic approach.
If there are other questions for our panelists, please don't hesitate to put them in the question box, and I'm sure they'll be willing to answer it. While I give them a chance, ladies, to do that, I'm going to ask a question just because I'm curious as we've talked and I'm listening to your presentation this morning. One of the things that we do through OCI here in Ohio is we really promote student engagement in the planning capacity to address student-related issues. So can you speak to either A, how you all have helped create this framework to include students at that level, and what is the process that you could offer to those on the call to maybe engage students even in this virtual capacity? Anybody?
Jordan, do you want to answer? Or Erica, go for it.
It's difficult, certainly. I will say in this virtual world, we've actually really beefed up our social media presence. And so we're trying to reach students in real time instead of like planning, like, oh, hop on a Zoom call. So we're trying to do more like Instagram lives as an example, or polls through our social media to sort of get like a pulse. Certainly it's not scientific. But we're trying. We're not necessarily real great in that. We also have a student health advisory council, and I think traditionally they have taken on maybe more of a programmatic approach. And I think in this new environment, they're seeing sort of this policy, sort of maybe different role that they can play in terms of advocating for what students need. And so we've been working with them to sort of leverage a seat at the table, if you will. So they're looking at student benefits as an example. They sit on our university benefit group. So for the student health plan, we don't have mandatory insurance, but we do have a lot of students who have the student health plan. And so they're able to be at the seat, have a seat at that table to bring current health issues and make sure that they're part of the conversation. So I would say through our SHAC, our Student Health Advisory Council or board, and our social media right now.
I will say that my campus struggles with student engagement beyond sometimes what can feel like tokenizing to the students. All right, like we have one student on this committee because we're supposed to have a student on this committee, and it's the same student who's on every single committee where there's supposed to be a student on the committee. So I will say that's something that my campus certainly struggles with. However, this semester we've had a really successful student health ambassador program to respond to COVID-19 and reduce transmission on our campus. We have been able to have, through an awful lot of effort from the students and beyond, we have the lowest prevalence of COVID-19 cases in our 17 campus system in North Carolina. And so my hope is that I can take that win. And we were able to stay in person all semester because of that, and say, look what students can really do, and maybe use that to leverage more student participation and more student engagement, at least at the decision-making levels. And so my suggestion would be, if you can demonstrate some wins or some, even some low-hanging fruit, that can be something that can help make the case for student engagement and student participation at decision-making levels.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Erica and Jordan said. It is extremely difficult to get that, especially consistent student engagement. I think also a benefit of the inventory and approaching it together as a campus is you can invite students to sit on that as well and provide their feedback. We always try here at UF to involve students, and they were very vocal. We're a campus that has recently gone through JED campus designation. We're in year 2, we're about to start. And part of that process was also keeping in mind, as we're a healthy campus and we're trying to move forward, a big component for us and one of the health trends that we are absolutely monitoring are the mental health of our students. And so the benefit of Healthy Campus for us was being able to layer on that framework as a tool to be able to sign on as a JED campus and to bring in students and to have additional feedback from them, focus groups, and so on. I think overarchingly, we try in terms of the work we do on college campuses to always stay on top of trends, but it's difficult. And, when you have limited resources, you're often asked by administration to focus in on what are the most critical issues. The benefit of the framework is we've been able to use it to further align additional resources and aspects. So we're using it here at UF as a tool as we continue to get approval for signing on to the Okanagan Charter. The Okanagan Charter, if you're not familiar with it, is another framework that focuses in on embedding health promotion within all aspects of campus life. So we see from a Healthy Campus framework that very much is one of the either community or culture components when you're moving beyond just the basic needs. And so on our campus, it's been really beneficial to sign on as a JED campus, to collect the data regarding the mental health of our students, and to talk about, when you're aligning all of this together and you're having these conversations, health promotion isn't just on the health promotion office. Mental health isn't just on the counseling center. And so it's helped facilitate those conversations across areas, across departments, and also, very importantly, bringing in students to those conversations as well.
Wonderful. That was great answers from all of you. Thank you so much for that. Are there any other questions for our panelists this afternoon?
If I can share, if there are campuses that are on this call that are thinking, wow, this is something I really want to try out, and you're interested in piloting the Healthy Campus inventory on your institution, we're still looking for a few more pilot schools. Monica, do you happen to have my contact info on one of the slides? It's totally okay if you don't.
I do not. I think I forgot all of our email addresses.
No worries. Is there a way for us to put our email addresses into the chat for other folks to see?
I will absolutely do that for you, Jordan.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm putting my email into the chat so it can be shared. So if you're interested in participating in that pilot, just send me an email and I'll provide you with the information you need to get started.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments for Erica, Jordan, or Dr. Webb? Well, in the event that a question comes up at a later date and time, you can always reach out to us here at Prevention Action Alliance, and I will make sure that I share your question and return the answer to you. The easiest way to get to us is at OCI at preventionactionalliance.org, and I'm putting that in the chat box as well. And we just like to thank everybody who was able to join us this afternoon for the conversation. If you are not a member of the Ohio College Initiative here in Ohio, we would encourage that as well. It is that network that we have across our state that connects these types of conversations, and we're able to not only make connections to colleagues across Ohio, but as our panelists are representative of across the country this afternoon, and that's a really great benefit. I'm happy to say that for the remainder of fiscal year 2020, so until December 31st, OCI membership is free for anybody who is interested. If you're not already an OCI member, again, just reach out to OCI at preventionactionalliance.org. And we can get you the necessary registration information so that you can take full advantage of that opportunity. And obviously, if there are any other questions related to working with students in the behavioral health realm, we're happy to field those questions as well and get you the best answers that we can get you. So as somebody just popped in. So will the PowerPoint be shared with attendees? This webinar has been recorded, and it will be available on our website as well as our YouTube page to anybody who wants to have it. So regardless of whether you're a member of OCI or not, you'll have access to that, to the video. If you email us at OCI, we could probably share, Dr. Webb, the PowerPoint. I didn't want to sell that benefit without asking you first, because it was obviously a really great presentation. So we want to make sure that people can walk away with it.
We are happy to share all materials.
Any other questions or comments before we end the webinar? Well, again, on behalf of the Advisory Council here with the OCI Advisory Council and the staff at PAA, thank you, Erica. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Dr. Webb, for your time and your work on this framework. And I'm excited to be supportive and help to promote the framework here in Ohio. So all your good work is going to help benefit us as well. And if there's any other questions, as I mentioned, please visit us at OCI at preventionactionalliance.org. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your week.